I'm Hilary Hendershot, your host, and this is Profit Boss Radio, episode 136. Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth mastermind. Profit Boss is also a community and a movement for women who are ready to take control of their money, break the glass ceiling, and give ourselves permission to finally have enough. Want the secrets of wealth to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hilary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real women who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. Let's do this, ladies. Welcome to this episode of Ask Hilary, where we're getting listener questions answered. First, I do need to acknowledge I didn't publish an episode last week. And most of you know, if you're regular listeners, you certainly know at this point that I am dealing with a leukemia diagnosis. My 2.5-year-old daughter is actually in fairly intense chemotherapy right now. And there are times when I just don't have it in me to sit down and record, whether that be I don't have the time block or, to be honest with you. And this is a very fulfilling activity that I do, producing this podcast, and I give it my best. It takes energy out of me, and it's my pleasure to be able to give that energy. And sometimes I just don't have it. And I've got a great team around me, and they've helped me repurpose past episodes. And I do want to do that when possible and when it makes sense. And I won't no show on you very often, but I do need your patience and compassion right now. Harlan will be in fairly intense chemo until the end of March 2019. She should be in remission in April. And actually, I'm moving back to my house on Friday. So today's Monday, February 25th. I'm moving. We've been out of our house for almost a year. It's been being remodeled, and we've been living in a small 2-bedroom apartment. And so I've just got a lot going on. So I appreciate you. I think about you all the time. And yeah, sometimes I won't be able to put a show on. So thanks for staying subscribed. I truly appreciate it. Today, we're answering questions from listeners Meghan, Nellie, Jenni, and Nikki. Plus, I've got some cool information about cities that will actually pay you to move there. Most of today's questions are about things like paying off student loan debt and what should you do first, how to build up an emergency savings account or a curveball account, how to think about whether to help your financial partner pay off his student loans before accomplishing other financial goals, and some other what I hope are very useful questions. We love to hear your questions. Definitely send them in. Just pick up your mobile device, hit record yourself asking that question, and send it to media@hilaryhendershot.com. Let's go with this week's episode of Ask Hilary. This Ask Hilary comes from Meghan. She says, Hilary, I started listening to your podcast about 6 months ago, and I absolutely love them. Thanks, Meghan. I consider myself financially responsible, but of course, I'm not perfect, and I do have questions. I'm 4 years out of college, and for the first 3.5, I paid every extra cent to student loans. Finally, I realized that with more years out of that lifestyle, I'd be free of student debt, but I wouldn't have a savings for a home or feel prepared to start a family. So in the last year, I started saving for a home, and I paid just above the minimum on my school loans. In 2019 and 2020, I'd like to own that home and reevaluate what's finally needed after that. Yeah, Meghan, and by the way, this isn't the end of her email, but I would say you're always going to have competing savings goals. So paying off debt has the same impact on your net worth as saving for a home. And so unless you're earning a higher interest rate on your savings than you're paying on the debt, which isn't likely, most student loans are between 6 and 9%. You are actually, it's kind of 6 in one, half dozen of the other. So it doesn't really matter. And I know that that's kind of a bummer, but it's kind of the truth of it. Meghan also says, now that your Ignite program has ended, I don't know how much I'll get out of responding, but I read all the info you share. Well, Meghan, the Ignite program hasn't ended. We closed it to new clients, but we are taking people from the wait list. So we've actually taken 2 or 3 people from the wait list just this past week. I know we have some email invitations outstanding, so I don't know the exact number that will come on, but we'll fill those spots. Okay. So the Ignite program isn't terminated. You can get yourself on the waiting list, and we'd love to have you there. Thanks, Meghan. I have an email here from Nellie. Nellie says, Hilary, I want to thank you for being by my side on this financial roller coaster. You're welcome, Nellie. One thing I've learned is that my mind and the way I talk about my money situation has a lot to do with how my money grows or doesn't grow. My negative, quote unquote, I can't afford that, or quote unquote, I don't make enough money for that speech keeps me stuck in the rut I am in. Nellie, you are not alone. That is a very common situation, and congratulations on recognizing it. She says, I'm ready to move past that and make 2019 a year where I am financially sound. I'm at the point where I really need to build my emergency fund. I want to save enough for 6 months' salary and then move on to the next step. Nellie, I think that's a great idea. You definitely need, I don't like to call it an emergency fund. I call it a curveball account for when life throws you curveballs, because I don't choose, and profit bosses don't choose to have financial emergencies in their life. But that small kind of verbal correction aside, I think that's great. I think that having cash savings is definitely a critical part of having a healthy financial life. And I want to congratulate you on being a listener of Profit Boss Radio. Possibly you listen to other financial podcasts and you're doing your research, kind of digging in. And I would highly recommend automating your finances. I've talked about automation on this show a lot. And I think that if you can set up a system, or I think of it as a machine that supports you on an automated basis, every month money comes in and it goes to do the job that you've given it to do, that you can be set free to live your best life and go earn more money and increase your skill set and do all the things that you need to do to be successful. So yeah, build up your curveball account and then start saving for your future and focus on increasing your income, and keep being a listener, Nellie. Thanks so much. All right, here's a question from Jenni with lots of different parts. All right, here we go. Hi, Hilary. I love your podcast. It is simply one of my favorites. Great to hear, Jenni. I saw your Facebook post and I wanted to send along some ideas of things I've been trying to research lately. She says, my boyfriend and I are talking about getting married soon. We also recently bought a house together. He has about $32,000 in student loans and I have none. Do you have any ideas on how to handle his student loans after we get married? Do we split his debt down the middle? Does he just take care of it, or is there another option? I want to help him, but I also want to keep building my personal wealth / our emergency fund. So I'm torn. I keep asking people for advice, but everyone does it so differently, which is to be expected. Okay, Jenni, so this question actually has 2 parts. Well, you didn't know that you were asking me about the wisdom of buying real estate with your boyfriend. Be very careful. It's already done. Your transaction's already done. So maybe my words are just designed for other Profit Boss Radio listeners, but you do want to be very careful. Real estate is a very unforgiving asset class. You buy into a very expensive piece of property. I mean, expensive relative to your net worth or your earning potential. And lots of things can happen. Death, desertion, disability, these things people don't consider before they buy with someone that they love. So imagine you and your boyfriend buy a place together. He gets disabled. He has a terrible car accident. He doesn't die, and I know this is morbid and I'm terribly sorry to have you thinking about this, but you've just got to think about what could happen in the future. So now he's disabled. He can't work. He can't earn money. However, he was paying half the mortgage. Now he's living in the house because, of course, he's disabled and hurt. You're still working, but where does the money for the mortgage come from? Or God forbid, what if you have a terrible breakup? Now you're living in this house that you own together and you can't agree on who should leave. Neither of you can afford to buy each other out. It's just kind of a scary situation. The marriage contract, if you do get married before you buy real estate together, most people don't realize actually pre-contracts you for some of these potential negative outcomes. So it's prescripted by law what would happen in those situations. Doesn't necessarily protect you from the situation where he becomes disabled, but at least that is an asset now where the two of you are financial partners and he can't just walk away. Or I realize that some of this talk sounds like the two parties I'm talking about, which are in theory you and the person that you love very much, don't have the same interests. And that may not be a situation you can imagine right now. But believe me, I have seen it all. And you just have to think about yourself first. No one cares more about your money than you do, but you also need to think about what are the potential ways I'm going to get out of this situation. So those are the things I really want you to think about before buying with someone to whom you're not married. Now, she wants to know he has $32,000 in student loan debt and she doesn't. They're planning to get married. How should they handle it? Well, in essence, if you're going to get married, you're becoming financial partners with this person. So you say, I want to continue to build my own wealth and our emergency fund. And that's all fine and well. And I do think that you should at least apply equal resources to building an emergency fund as you do to paying off student loan debt. You need to be someone who has cash on hand for unexpected events. But if you're going to become financial partners with this person, it really doesn't matter if you physically write a check to his student loan provider or if you spend time amassing wealth in a brokerage account, because this has the same impact on your net worth. He's got that ball and chain of student loan debt and you're building up wealth. But if you put $32,000 in an account and he's got $32,000 of student loan debt, your net worth is still zero. And so that's kind of the tricky bit of that. So when you get together with someone who has debt, you're taking on their debt. It becomes your debt. And that's even more clear in community property states. I think Nikki is from Colorado. And, I know that California is a community property state. And it's just very, very clear that in community property states, especially when you merge lives, you merge finances. And, it's possible that if you were to marry someone who had $32,000 of student loan debt and then get divorced before they paid off the debt, that you wouldn't have to split that debt. If you could show that they incurred the debt before the date of the marriage, probably they would leave the marriage with the debt. But if you're going to stay married to the person, the debt has to get paid off. So Nikki, that's why you get so many different answers from so many different people, because you can do any number of things, but most people don't realize that saving in an account while someone who you're in a financial partnership with has debt has no impact on your net worth. So there you go. Next question. What are your thoughts on Robinhood investing? Okay, so specifically, I can't answer any question about investing, but Robinhood is a tool that allows you to buy and sell mutual funds, ETFs, and individual stocks free of commissions. So now that would fundamentally be an active investing methodology. You would be buying and selling based on what you think is going to go up. And I don't know where you would be getting that information, but I've talked a lot on this podcast about how the smartest men and women in the world have tried to do active investing profitably. And the data that we have says that not even the highest compensated Wall Street active mutual fund or investment managers over the long run beat a simple buy and hold of an index-based portfolio. So I haven't talked about a specific portfolio allocation for an index-based portfolio, but as far as Robinhood goes, I'm not quite sure what you would be doing there. If you're buying index funds, great. Portfolio construction matters, so don't just randomly, willy-nilly go buy index funds. I do think you need some education and training on best practices and on the evidence surrounding how to hold an index-based portfolio. But if you're going to go buy and sell stocks using the Robinhood app, I'm pretty comfortable saying that, in my opinion, that would be a mistake. Next question. Is it better to start a high-yield savings account for future house projects, wedding, or emergency fund, or to pay off student loans as fast as possible? Well, the math answer to that is, assuming the interest rate on the student loans is higher than what you're getting at a high yield savings account, which in my experience right now, it almost definitely is, you should pay off the student loan as fast as possible. Next question, is there a magic number on how much is quote unquote responsible to spend on a wedding? She says we have the mortgage, the student loans, the house projects we want to do. So spending more than $5,000 on a wedding terrifies me right now. Of course, we're hoping our parents will chip in. Yeah, I hope so too. But we need to get engaged first. Yes, you do have to be engaged before you start planning a wedding. Well, you don't have to, but that might be a little odd. So no, there's no magic number. I would say the magic number, the more detailed planning you can do. I mean, it sounds to me, Jenni, like you're really feeling the scarcity of resources, that you're expressing these different goals and intentions that you have. So you're doing great in terms of your internalizing opportunity costs and what you could exchange that money for. So a lot of people just spend money because they justify it and say, well, I wanted it, I deserve it. I'm only getting married once, blah, blah, blah. But a prudent money person, a person who's prudent with their own money, really begins to look at what are the trade-offs? What can I not have if I spend this $5,000 on a wedding? $5,000 actually, Jenni, doesn't sound like very much for a wedding. So if it terrifies you to spend $5,000, maybe you just want to have a potluck, or maybe you want to elope, go to the city hall, maybe just have your parents take you to a buffet for lunch. Really, I mean, if you're terrified to spend $5,000 on a wedding, that's not going to get you very far when it comes to the dresses, the decoration, the food, the hall rental. There's just a lot of expenses. So maybe you just kind of want to go for zero. I know that's not a very specific recommendation, but I do hope it helps. Okay, Jenni says, all the best and Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Jenni. This Ask Hilary comes from Nikki. Nikki says, thank you, Hilary, for sharing another eye-opening episode. I have 529 accounts for my 2 boys. One is now a freshman in high school, and as I open my 529 statements for him, I'm very worried. The amount we have earned in that account will not come close to even covering 1 year at a UC. When I first opened this account over 5 years ago, I had opted for the target age option and also didn't do any research on annual cost of college tuition. Our biweekly investments are very small. My intent is to go in now and make changes in the investment options, but I'm wondering if I need to make more aggressive investment choices at this point, since he'll be graduating high school in less than 4 years. If you're able to give any advice, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so first of all, as I'm sure you're tired of hearing me say, I obviously can't give specific investment advice on this show. If you're not a client of mine, I just don't know the particulars of your life, but I can speak from principles and kind of rules of thumb to answer this question. So Nikki is kind of suffering the pain of, like, I wish I had made better choices in the past. She's very honest, and she says, I really didn't do any research on the annual cost of college tuition. And, our contributions are pretty small, but this account, it doesn't have enough money in it to do what I need it to do. And so it sounds like she's got it in a 529 plan that has an age-based allocation or an age-weighted allocation. This is very similar to a retirement date fund. So a retirement date fund is supposed to have the right allocation for you, and the allocation being the amount of money you have invested in high risk, high expected return investments like stocks, and the amount of money you have invested in lower risk, lower expected return investments like bonds. And so supposedly target date funds take you through the phases of your life towards retirement and angling you for having a safer portfolio on the day or the year that you want to retire. Now, I'm not a big fan of target date funds. They're typically very expensive and, in my opinion, highly overweighted to lower risk, lower expected return investments. That's because most people want to retire at 60 or 65, and they're expecting to live until 85, 90, 95, sometimes longer. So most people who retire at age 65 have 30 years plus some possibly very high medical costs to cover. And in order to do that, we need higher returns. Now, that's not anything actionable, and that's not what Nikki's question was. Her question is about the 529 specifically. So it sounds like she's got a similar age-weighted allocation and that this 529 provider offers to do that for her. The one that I recommend to my clients also does the same thing. And she's looking at it and saying, well, I need more aggressive investments because I haven't saved enough and I didn't start saving early enough. So is that a good idea? Well, unfortunately, Nikki, here's what you put yourself at risk for. The reason your age-weighted portfolio has more money in lower risk, lower expected return investments is because right now, as your son is approaching college, you can't afford the losses that could occur in the market So you need to, and in the case of 529s, I really do think that age-weighted portfolio allocation is a great idea. It's a set it and forget it thing. You don't have to remember to go in there every year as your son or daughter gets to be a year older and change the allocation. They do it for you, and it helps you not suffer some market risk that you would otherwise be suffering. So, Nikki, that's the thing is if you go make it more aggressive and the market loses 20 or 25%, or we have a few years of zero growth or negative growth, you're kind of decimating the small amount of savings that you do have. So I don't think that's a great idea. No, you could gamble and it could pay off, but it is a gamble. I think a better bet for you is to be sure that your boy knows that he'll need to be applying for grants and scholarships, that he should be working on targeting specific schools and understanding what the endowments at those schools can afford and how to best target himself for free money, for sponsored money for college. And it's okay to have a budget. You haven't done anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Resources are scarce, so you have to allocate them by choice, and it's okay what you've done. You have saved a little and continue to save. See if you can save a little bit more, but make sure that your boy knows this is going to be his first opportunity to be strategic and entrepreneurial and to create opportunities for himself that didn't exist before. I hope that helps, Nikki.
Hi, Hilary. My name's Katie and I live in New England. I'm 31 years old and I'm currently working as a teacher in the public school system. My question is about getting started with investing. I've listened to a few of your episodes on investing now, but otherwise I'm a complete beginner and I don't have any actual experience with it yet. What I've taken away from it all so far is that having a diverse portfolio is best. However, I don't know if this is the right time for me to begin investing for a few reasons. My income is relatively low, about $42,000 a year, and I also have about $30,000 to $35,000 in student loan debt. About 6 months ago, I took steps toward a more aggressive payoff approach on these loans, but I know that it's still going to take me years before it's all paid off. I also contribute a very minimal amount to my retirement in a 403(b) and my state's public retirement system. Last year, I also began automating my savings based on different priorities and your recommendations. Based on all this information, I'm wondering if you think beginning to invest right now is a good option for me, and if so, how would you recommend going about it? I've been hearing a lot about the Robinhood investment app recently, and I'm considering giving it a try, but I was wondering what you know about the app and if it is of recommendation from you. Thanks again for all of your help.
Hey, Katie, thanks for your question. Yeah, so you are in a pretty typical situation, possibly a few years out of school, and you've got a job, lots of debt to pay off, and you hear that you should be investing and you want to know, what's up with that? How do I actually do that, given I'm paying off debt and it's tight living anyway? So the true answer is that within a few kind of decimal points of rounding error, your efforts to pay off your student loans do the exact same thing to your net worth as any efforts to invest. So the real answer is right now you should focus on paying off your debt. And if you're putting money in your 403(b), you are investing. Go into that portal, log in, and make sure that money isn't in cash. Make sure that it is invested, but your employer will offer you a list of potential investments and you can just go that way. So you're saving in your 403(b), you're paying off your debt, and until that debt is paid off, you're not saving elsewhere. I think if you love your job, then just close your ears and don't listen to what I'm about to say. But rather than focusing on taking what's scarce disposable income you have now and trying to invest it, that you could take your scarce resources, potentially time, like your evenings and weekends, and figure out how to make more money. Some side hustle or maybe some other employment opportunity. I mean, it is going to be tough to achieve financial freedom on $42,000 a year. That's just the net of it. That's just the harsh, objective truth. So I hope that helps. Definitely don't start playing with the Robinhood app. Actually, another person in this episode, I've answered this question in this episode. I don't know if that answer will play before or after this one, but the Robinhood app is all about Active investing, that's guessing and smoke and mirrors, and you don't want to get into that, okay? So just forget about Robinhood. I know a lot of people are talking about it. We all get FOMO. That's natural. But you can just rest assured, Hilary said, you might save on trading costs, but you'll probably lose a lot of your money. So not a good trade-off. Katie, thanks for being a listener. Have a great day. I saw something kind of fun come across my desk and thought I would make you aware of it. It turns out there is a population trend that some smaller cities are trying to combat by paying people to actually move there. So the trend toward tech and metropolitan jobs is hurting cities who are losing residents and therefore tax base. So cities like Tulsa, Oklahoma, states like Vermont, and cities like New Haven, Connecticut are actually offering tax incentives if you're willing to move there. So this could be a perfect opportunity for a quote unquote digital nomad if you've got a job where you can literally work from anywhere. Tulsa will pay you a total of $10,000 over 2 years in the form of $2,500 to be put toward relocation expenses, a $500 a month stipend, and a $1,500 grant at the end of a 12-month program. You also get a free membership to 36 Degrees North, which is a co-working space in the city. The article says that the cost of living in Oklahoma is 8% lower than the national average, according to the salary comparison site PayScale. But based on cost of living, quality of life, and job market, Oklahoma was ranked 43 out of 50 in a recent U.S. and World Report ranking the best states in which to live. So it's not clear that Tulsa is the best place to live, but anything can change, right? Anyway, I've got more information about these programs that pay people to move to U.S. cities, smaller U.S. cities, because they're interested in having a younger population and having more people come there so that they can earn money and pay local tax and have a great life. I've got more information for you about these programs at hilaryhendershot.com/136. Check it out. I am so excited to announce that the 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience coaching program is back, ladies. Do you want to increase your wealth by $50,000 in the next 2 years? Of course you do. Just imagine the peace of mind. Imagine the freedom and security. As successful women, we want to see our work translate to living the life that we want. But the reality is that too many of us feel trapped by our finances. If you struggle to experience true peace of mind when it comes to your finances, if you're an entrepreneur and feel tied to your business because cash flow is unpredictable, if you want better control of your money, but right now you doubt your ability to handle wealth responsibly, your reality can start to change now. What if I can show you how to begin experiencing sustainable growth in your financial life in the next 7 months? Would you accept my invitation? Imagine being informed, confident, and in total control of your finances through a proven financial automation system. Imagine creating financial security and growing your net worth. If you're ready to ignite your wealth building future, you may be a candidate for my 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience. I'm opening registrations for the second year of this successful program in April of this year, 2019, and the opportunity is only open to a select group of applicants. The 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience coaching program will run from June to November of 2019. If I take you on, it's because I believe I can show you how to create a $50,000 difference in your net worth in 24 months' time. I'm going to ask you to work though. This program has a community element, so I'll ask you to meet with me and the other women in your cohort in San Jose, California, 3 times over the 6-month program. You get 7 one-on-one coaching calls with me, 7 calls with my team to organize your finances and make sure you're staying on track, and we will be there with you, supporting you every step of the way. Together, we're going to transform everything about your financial life, the way you talk about money, the way you think about money, the way you handle money, and the way you grow your money. It's immersive. We're also going to open up your bank accounts and set up my proven automation system, and then my team and I are there for you throughout the program and beyond if you choose to make sure the plan is working for you. The first step is to apply. You can find the link at 50kwealthmultiplier.com. That's the number 50 and the letter K and wealthmultiplier.com. Once again, 50kwealthmultiplier.com. You should know that no results are guaranteed. Just like any coaching program, you have to take new actions to produce new results. Take Danica, for instance. She increased her annual income by $400,000. Layla increased her net worth by $70,531 just over the course of the 6 months we were together in the program. Lucy started with a net worth of $65,000, but by the end of the program had grown her net worth to $111,000. And you want to know something? You can experience meaningful results in your financial life too, if you're ready and willing to do the work that's required of you to multiply your wealth. I'll be looking forward to receiving your application for the 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience.